Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 5 in the late game on Saturday in the Premier League. Mark Donaldson alongside Janusz Michallik to dissect what we saw at Selhurst Park. And that was a very comfortable result for Arsenal. It was an excellent performance. What was the thing that impressed you most about the Gunners today, Janusz?
I think I would have to say just this super professional performance from Arsenal. That, at this stage of the season, it's very much needed. I mean, it was an up and down game, right? Early goal, Crystal Palace answers that. Then it seems that Arsenal were comfortable. And then, you have the beginning of the second half where Arsenal looked wobbly, didn't they? And then just as you thought that maybe Crystal Palace will get one back and it's going to make it interesting, you have that fourth goal by Martinelli and then total control. So I sort of like that, as I've said, the super performance, scoring goals when you need them, in the game itself. So look, for me, I continue to say that Arsenal are legitimate title contenders. I'm not changing that.
No, and there's nothing that you can see so far that would suggest otherwise. And you and I had the discussion with Luis Miguel Echegaray on ESPN FC Live on Friday, talking about Mikel Arteta's 5 years in the job. And one of the talking points, not just in that show, but any time we've spoken about Mikel Arteta, is the stubbornness about not signing a striker. Gabriel Jesus has just scored a lot of goals against Palace this week. It's not a case of suddenly saying he's the answer. They don't need to spend the money. They don't need to bring in a world-class striker. But could they have the striker they need right under their own noses?
Well, timing is everything, right? I mean, we've said so much about the need of signing that player, somebody that's consistent, because we saw Gabriel Jesus, who had, before he scored today in the Premier League, 0 goals, 0 assists. And all of a sudden, he backs up that performance that he had against Palace and midweek, couple goals. Let's face it, he should have a hat trick at least. He had two unbelievable chances, even that fourth one, right? I think. I mean, it was a great header, post, and then he had another one save that he should have scored. So maybe that's the time, and that's really all that matters when you talk about teams that are contending for big titles, big trophies. It matters in the beginning when you set your season up, right? Because you want to have somebody that from the beginning gives you that sort of consistency where you're comfortable that if you deliver the ball, they're going to score. So that wasn't there. And every wobble, I'm going to use wobble a lot today because, well, this is the second time anyway. Every wobble you have in the season, it's easy to talk about that. But here we are right now. And who knows? What if he gets going? What if he scores 7 goals, but all of them are going to be the key ones in the time that matters when opponents drop points and you go away from home to the team like Palace and score. So it's possible, but I don't think ultimately it changes the fact that they need one. The thing is that we don't know. They may be talking to 3, 4, 5, or 6 for all we know, and it's just waiting for the right moment.
5 goals in 2 games, Gabriel Jesus for Arsenal. 1 goal in the previous 365 days. Like buses, you wait an eternity for 1, and then suddenly 2 come along in quick succession. Now, whether it's Gabriel Jesus or whoever it is, what is the difference in the way that Arsenal set up when they have a focal point in attack, a true number 9, as opposed to someone who's maybe a false 9 or a Kai Havertz who is more of a 10 playing a 9 role? What's the difference then to have someone who plays that number 9 role to the way Arsenal set up?
Yeah, I think with Gabriel Jesus, it's totally different. I think what he gives you, I mean, he, the way I look at him, he's a false 9. He still is. He's very, very mobile. That's not necessarily the worst. If you remember him in Manchester City, I mean, he was the heir apparent to Kun Agüero. And remember Pep trying. I mean, Pep was pushing Agüero out of Manchester City because he thought this was going to be it with Gabriel Jesus. It didn't pan that way, partially because Kun Agüero said, I'll show you, and he did. That forced, if you remember, Gabriel Jesus to play on the right side for the most part. And I don't think he did terribly, but didn't do well. But here he has the freedom, and you're playing with a number 9, which we've seen. If he does that as well as he did today throughout the season, that's possible. But I think in terms of a setup, it wasn't any different. But when he scores, you start to appreciate Gabriel Jesus more for everything else that he does. He does that, but when he doesn't score, we say, no, that's not good enough. But when he scores today, even that last goal, did you see that extra effort to save the ball from going outside for a throw-in? That strength, that's the beauty of it. And now, when he scores goals, so little details like that matter, I think, at least matter for me. It's 4-1, the game's almost over. He gets there, and, Declan Rice ultimately scores that goal with Calafiori helping out as well. So, no different. The question now, it's always, I'm sure you're going to get there. I don't want to take that away from you, but, it's in and out the key players. Now we have Saka, which they dealt with well today. We don't know what that is, but certainly one player they can't afford to lose again.
Yeah, I mean, they have options, Bukayo Saka having to go off early. But the way Gabriel Jesus is, he's, as much as he'll be happy to get back among the goals, he'll probably be annoyed that he hasn't got another match ball for his collection. And that's maybe what you want. You just want options if you're Mikel Arteta. So to get the 5 goals as they did today at Palace, to get 3 in midweek, what's the difference between the way that Palace set up today against Arsenal and the way Everton set up last week at the Emirates?
Oh, I mean, playing away, that's massive. And, you heard during our commentary that, Arsenal haven't been great away from home, even though they've had some big results here. I think, the fact that they played Palace again, I mean, they had their losses as well. No Munoz, no Eze today. I mean, look, Everton just came to survive. And that's the difficulty, right? I mean, you sit back and you saw the Arsenal struggles really in the wide areas, that possessional game where you have to pick the team apart, which, by the way, they can do. But I think that, Odegaard maybe not back to his best after the injury. He's doing fine. He looked good. But as we know, it's still not the Odegaard before it, not at his best for sure. So Everton didn't really want to play. They had a few looks here and there. But, I don't know if you can compare the two. Today, as I think everybody saw, it didn't seem like a 5-1 game. Crystal Palace had their chances, try to play. The games open up, and you saw in transition, I mean, that's the best of Arsenal. We saw it 2 or 3 occasions, Mark, today. That's the way they want to play. Not everybody is going to oblige.
They've got Ipswich up next, Arsenal at home, and after they shipped 4 today to Newcastle, that could be a damage limitation. And just going back, the reason I asked you about the Everton Palace question is Everton can do that. They can set up, they can deny space. You need a bit of luck. You need good goalkeeping as well. You need a lot of things to go your way to get a 0-0 draw against Arsenal. But it just seems to suit teams that can go there and say to Arsenal, okay, come on, break us down. Whereas at Palace, and when Arsenal go away from home, there just seems to be that kind of thing that the home team's obliged to maybe have a little bit of a go. And that kind of played into Arsenal's hands today. Kai Havertz getting a goal. Declan Rice able to come off the bench. He got a goal. I think he got an assist as well. You can only beat what's in front of you. And it's interesting you say it wasn't a 5-1 game. Probably not. But look, Gabriel Jesus could have scored a goal or 2 more. I think Arsenal are not in a bad position. Given where they were, and you kind of thought, right, they're definitely in this, then they kind of fell away. And now going into the kind of Christmas period where they've got Ipswich at home, they've done their job today. And now they can just go back, put their feet up, and hope their title rivals drop points. It's not a bad position to be because they're only 3 points off the top.
No, I mean, look, the margin for error is not big. That depends what Chelsea and Liverpool in particular will do. You can only control what you do. So the negative side, as I've said, there's just one thing, that defense, I've used wobbly, so let me use something else, maybe a little bit shaky at times, right? And I know the players have been in and out because of injuries and suspensions, because, we've seen Arsenal much better at their best. We've talked about 2, arguably the best defensive pairing between Saliba and Gabriel. At least top 3 around the world for me, for sure, when they're at their best. You see Timber, tremendous. on that left-hand side. We saw a youngster today who, by the way, played really, really well. There's actually a little bit, the positives, there's actually a little bit more depth, isn't it, to Arsenal than we may be giving him credit, because it seems, at least I remember that, maybe it's a crutch that I use and I shouldn't. I think I was in the right for a while, but we say, well, that quality of the bench maybe isn't there. But then you start looking a little bit deeper. And like today, right? I mean, Lewis Skelly, my goodness, right? I know he's young, but they have option on the left-hand side when everybody's healthy. Calafiori is here, but Tomiyasu, when he comes back, Kivior can play there. Zinchenko, all those players, by the way, can contribute, even if it's a one game and they have a great game. Well, that's a positive, right? So, but they need to get that right. I just have a feeling that defensively they don't look as strong as I've seen, say, last season for long periods of time, Mark. So a lot of positives. Another one, I'll throw it at you. The games, I look at the games and you have City, Chelsea, Spurs, and Villa at home. A big positive, right, for them. I know Liverpool, Manchester United away, but that's not bad. And most of the, if not all, or most of the London derbies are at home for them. So when you look at that schedule, you look at your position, you're seeing that Spurs are playing Liverpool tomorrow. Who knows? But I still think they'll be in it in the end.
You need a bit of fortune as well. For any title, you've got to have ability. Yeah, that's granted. But you're speaking about the defence, and I think you're right to speak about the defence as well, because they've had issues this season. They've had injuries. They've had suspensions. Ben White's been out for a while. You've got Zinchenko, as you mentioned. Timber can play anywhere along the back four. Kieran Tierney is not going to play. The likelihood is he might end up back on loan at Celtic, but he's another one who's in there. But it's been difficult to play the same back four back-to-back games or in a row. This isn't your Arsenal invincible back four that picked itself and everyone was there. If they're able to keep Saliba and keep Gabriel at the back and keep Yuri and Timber and have one other, and they play every single week in front of David Raya, could that be the key that could help them with a title challenge if everybody stays fit?
Yeah, I mean, they're hoping for that stability for a period of time, right? Say it's a month where you can play, arguably your best starting 11, especially in the back. The bonuses, just, the more I think about it, I mean, Thomas Partey, I really thought that he wasn't going to make it. There was something about his game ever since he came from La Liga I just didn't like. I don't know. It didn't seem the same person, but he's been absolutely outstanding. You get Odegaard in there. Declan Rice, obviously quality, a little bit of knock here in the midweek, but he's had some injuries. But I think when he's healthy, he's steady Eddie, as good as anybody out there in that position. And you know what? And again, I like Havertz coming from deeper today. In that transitional game, when he's got space in front of him, he's so much better. I mean, so much has been asked of him throughout his career, let's be honest, because I remember him, Mark, that at Leverkusen as well, he played a number of positions where, you actually say, well, where is he best at it? That's not his fault. He's just being asked to play these positions. He's had to learn how to play as a number 9 here. And I think he's done a pretty decent job considering. But, we can't fault him for 1 or 2 bad games. But again, today I liked him in that midfield, in that deeper role. So I think there's a lot of positives there. But as we've said with others, it's all about consistency right now. This is that opportunity for Arsenal Football Club, isn't it? Just as it is for Liverpool. They never counted on it because nobody counted on Manchester City falling apart the way they do. So that pressure is going to double on Arsenal. Because if you came close last season and the season before that, here, kind of logic says, well, this should be your year.
Just finally, what's Arsenal's best front three?
I think I'm influenced by Gabriel Jesus. I mean, Gabriel Jesus in that form. I think you say Saka, Gabriel Jesus, and still Martinelli. Although I have more doubts there than not that I don't like Martinelli, but I appreciate Trossard and what he does. But for today, I'll say Saka, Gabriel Jesus, and Martinelli. But that's heavily influenced by the way he's played in the last 2 games.
Of course, the hypocrisy levels are through the roof when we talk about not having a striker, and then suddenly Gabriel Jesus comes along. Might not be the answer, but at least they've got someone in a focal point role in the middle of the attack that puts the ball in the back of the net. Will it last? That's the big question, because if it does, Arsenal will be right in there. They win this one by 5-1 at Selhurst Park and just 3 points off the top of the table. Bye for now.